I take on your dreams as if they're my dreams, and I'll figure it out.
Most people never have thought that I'd be where I am now.
I'm not going to call myself alone. I'm not going to call myself a loner, but I have loner tendencies. I'll leave this world serving others.
Hey, what's going on, family? Welcome to another episode of Called to Serve podcast. I am your host, Reggie Hubbard. Today with us, we have a very, very, very special guest. My best friend in the whole wide world. Let me tell you about this dude. We've been friends for over 20 years, and he is truly a servant leader. He loves to serve, and he loves to serve those that are doing big things. He is a new father. He's a husband. He's a servant of God, just a servant in his community. I'm not going to give all the beans, but y'all give it up for my dude, Andre Murphy. What's going on, broski?
Hey, man, it's an honor and pleasure to be here today, man. I look around the studio, and it takes my breath away, man, to see you doing the thing that you're most passionate about. And it's just an honor to be on the stage with you, at this point in your journey, episode 15. But looking forward to what you're going to be doing in the future. And, hopefully you bring me back at episode like 100 or episode 1,000. But yeah, man, it's just an honor and pleasure to be here.
Man, it's an honor to have you here, man. I was like, when I started this podcast, I was like, man, there's a few people that for sure have to come and bless us, man. And you were definitely one of them for sure. So, man, just tell us about your journey, man. Tell us about who you are and what it is that you love to do.
Yeah, man. Funny enough, your podcast called Call to Serve, I've always felt and known for me that I was called to serve. And what that looked like for me was really, I've always just helped people in my life, from when I was, as young as I can remember. Like when I was a young kid, I was giving away my toys because, my boys, my friends, they wanted the toys or whatever, it's like it gave them fun. Right. And I had a lot. I was a only child. But it started there too. As I got older and there was more things I could do, I would go over a friend's house and, they got chores to do. And I'm asking like, yo, like, let me help, like, or let me do this or whatever. And as I got older, the trend still continued. Like there's just a passion that I have for when someone has something that they want to accomplish, but especially, as I got older, to know that really when it comes to, they have a goal, they have a dream, especially I believe that God has placed, dreams and, visions and stuff like that, for us, to lay it out for us, or desires for us.
Yeah.
And when people are able to tune into that and figure out, hey, this is what I want to accomplish, this is what I feel called for or called to do, I feel especially drawn to those type of people. And I believe that I've been blessed with the ability to connect technology with just a servant's heart. Like if I don't know how to do something to help you, I take on your dreams as if they're my dreams, and I'll figure it out, and I'll walk with you. And so that's been my life journey of wherever I'm running to people who have this big dream that wants to make an impact on other people's lives. And then especially if they want to impact other people's lives and do it for the kingdom, that's when there's really like a big connection. And it's like, there's not much that I wouldn't do to help to see that dream come to fruition.
Wow.
So, and through that, man, like God has given me promotions. He's blessed me like tenfold from me just serving and helping other people. And so for me, like everything, I'll leave this world serving others. Otherwise than that, man, I don't know what else to say. Like that's just my life purpose, is just serving, man. Like just helping people win and just walking with them on a journey. Sometimes I may not be the best person to do what they're looking to do, but sometimes just being there with them on that journey is sometimes enough, right?
Yeah.
And I may not know that at the time because I'm just trying to figure it out, but there's always a place that I feel that I can fit in with someone on their journey of accomplishing these goals or dreams that they're pursuing.
Wow. That's powerful, man. That is powerful. I guess, have you always known that you were destined or, created to serve others? Was there like a point in time where, like a defined point in time where you were like, you know what, I'm a servant, man. Like, this is what I do. Can you recall a time where that you just got hit with something?
It wasn't that I got hit. It was literally just natural for me. In fact, It was the opposite. It was because I always felt that I was called to serve and serve others. I never thought of myself as a leader. So for me, it was, I always viewed myself to being the number two guy, and I was okay with being the number two guy. I didn't aspire to like, I want to be the CEO of a company, or I want to do this. I want to help the CEO of a company. I want to help, whoever who has this big dream, this big goal. I want to walk with them. I want to help them accomplish that thing. And so it's only recently in the last, I would say 5 years that I really felt challenged, and God really challenged me. And then the people in my life, like you, challenged me to look at, to redefine that and look at like there's such a thing as being called a servant leader, right? So I can lead by serving.
Yes.
And it took me a while to really even become comfortable with just that headspace of that I can be considered a leader or be a leader while still serving other people. And so, yeah, for me, it was never, I always knew. I lived it. I did it naturally, and I only got the most amount of fulfillment. And that's how I knew that it was how I was also called, or, felt like this was my purpose, was there was such a level of fulfillment every time. Like, it never felt like sacrifice to serve others versus like when I'm doing things on my own, or, trying to do my own business or whatever. It was like, that was work. But I would do the same things that I would do for myself now as an entrepreneur. If I was doing it with someone else, it would be, bro, like, we have to work for 3 days straight, no sleep, or like limited sleep, or like whatever the sacrifice is. Like, it's easy, and I'm rejuvenated, and I'm excited to keep going until we cross that milestone. So yeah, I've always known. I didn't have a moment where I didn't know. It only stood out more when I was either trying to be put into a leadership position, or when I realized I was doing other things outside of serving, intentionally serving.
Yeah, man, I definitely remember some of the conversations that we've had in the past, and you expressed like, you've always thought of yourself as like a number two guy, and I've never seen you as a number two guy, and just really having that conversation with you, and tying back into servant leadership, because I'm like, man, like, dude, you're a leader, man. I know that God has called you to do some big things that are going to be very impactful and that are going to impact a lot of people. And it seems like you're currently doing that, man. Like, talk to us about what you got going on with you got the swag going on, man. Like, come on, man. What's up, man?
Yeah, man. As you know, man, I have a company that I'm partnering with a good friend of mine named Zach Harms. Mm-hmm. And it was just what's funny about this is it started off, this was Zach's baby. Like, this was something that he had started years ago, but he never really took seriously or wanted to grow. But whenever I work with people, especially those who I'm close with, I feel like I want to help them once again achieve their goals. And one day I was like, I realized I'd been working with Zach for about a year, almost a year and a half. And I was like, wait, I've never offered to help him with whatever he's passionate about.
Yeah.
And so I remember just sitting down with him saying like, hey man, like, typically if you're in my life in some capacity, I'm going to find a way to help you. Like, whatever it is, whether it's making a connection, or there's my technical, if I have a know-how or knowledge or whatever. Yeah. And I realized I never offered that to you. And we had a series of conversations, and he opened up the company and say, hey man, like, do you want to do this with me? And so that was interesting because there was a lot of life transitions that happened recently in that time, about a year ago, where it all started, where we made a decision to me and my wife made a decision to have a child. And, we make a decision, but we also had the knowledge of like, this could take time. And we were in a good financial place, and this and the third. And then we got pregnant in 1 month. Like literally the first time we tried, we got pregnant. And then a lot of things happened where we were working, and that all kind of went down the drain. So we had to pivot. And so meeting with Zach and saying like, yo, there's this opportunity where we can partner up on this company. And it was an honor because it was his baby. And so like he's someone who doesn't just trust a lot or trust easily. And so for him to be open to allowing me to be the co-founder as we really rebooted the company, was great. And what Rubik stands for is that we built a company that allows us to help people to do what they want to do. Meanwhile, we take off the automations and the marketing behind the scenes for them. So we'll do the automations. We provide a system that allows you to do all the marketing and your websites and everything all in one place. So that you can just focus on doing what you're passionate about. So if you say, hey, I want to be in front of the camera and just talk to people, but I need all these systems of email marketing and social media and automations, and, I want to see all my metrics all in one place at a high level, then that's what we provide. And we want to do it at a very affordable price. And so the price that we give it at is dirt cheap. In fact, we did it at dirt cheap prices because we're so much more committed to removing the excuse that it's going to be expensive to get started.
Yeah.
Right. So you can get everything for a low price.
Yeah.
Compared to if you wanted to go find someone else who can offer similar services, it's literally at least 5 times less.
Yeah. I mean, Rubik, the system is robust. I mean, it's awesome. I actually use Rubik for my company, and the automation's seamless. I mean, I really don't have a bad thing to say. I mean, y'all live up to what y'all putting down, man. I'm picking up what you're putting down, bro. And that's awesome, man. I'm super excited to hear that, co-founder of Rubik, man.
Man.
That's dope, man.
Yeah, God asked me to he challenged me to step up because there was a period where, talking about leadership, Zach decided to go on almost a month and a half vacation.
Oh yeah, tell us about that, man.
And
how was that?
And so now it was on me to do the train. We were doing weekly trainings, and it was as a startup company where we were blessed to start off with at least 30. We got 30, 40 clients within a few weeks of really intentionally marketing and putting the word out there. And he goes away on vacation, and I wanted him to because he's been hustling and grinding, but it left me being head honcho in charge with having to respond to everything, host the trainings, do the trainings. And there was a lot of fear for me because typically I don't like to be, the number one. I'd rather be behind the scenes helping out, doing the thing. But it stretched me. And it showed me that I could do it, and I need to do it because it's bigger than me.
Yeah.
Like whenever I serve, it's bigger than me. And with what we are offering in our system on a small scale is there's people who have their hopes and dreams. They have their goals, like they're business entrepreneurs. They're doing it for their family. They're doing it for whatever they want to accomplish in the world, and being able to provide a service that helps them to give them time back or just take some off their plate that they don't have to worry about anymore. Like there's a blessing in that and an honor to be able to provide that service.
Yeah, man. That's awesome, dude. It's so funny, man. Like how you stepped away and then you kind of had to step up. Well, not kind of, you had to step up. Couldn't really run away from leadership at that point in time.
Yeah.
I guess when he made that decision to step away and just completely leave you to run things, what was your initial feeling?
Well, first of all, once again, it goes back to our relationship of there was an honor in him having that level of trust. Everyone probably has someone in their life that they know who doesn't trust easy. And having the opportunity to know him for the year and a half prior to us getting into business in this capacity, I saw a lot of transformation. Like he really opened up to me over that time. And this was just another level of trust. Like, can you imagine something that you've been passionate about and it's your baby, and now you're leaving it in someone's hands? And, at a stage where we're a startup, like in the very beginning, everything matters and everything's important. Like, you make mistakes, but there's some mistakes that you can't make that can really shift the trajectory of your company or what you're doing. And so for him to feel safe enough and confident enough to be able to go on this trip for that month and a half period, there was an honor with that. But then personally, internally, of course, there was a level of anxiety to a degree, and not wanting to mess up, once again, not wanting to be in the forefront, and battling also when I made a career shift a few years ago, and how I ended up working with Zach, and me and you were doing some work as well, exclusively. To make that shift, I had to give up a previous company that I worked with. I was there for about 4.5 years, and I was really I was building out a whole new position for myself with that. And it was a great company, but it wasn't what I was passionate about.
Yeah.
And so when the opportunity came, you brought the opportunity to me saying, hey, if you could do this thing, like, would you be open to it? And I was like, yes. And, I literally felt God saying, I've given you positions of leadership before and you ran away from it. I'm going to give you one more chance if you don't do it this time, that's okay, but I'm not going to give you another chance. That's what I felt like. Are you going to trust in me enough to, you say you want to serve, you say that, you want to be, you want to serve me in a way that helps the most amount of people. Well, I'm calling you to be a leader. And are you going to trust me enough to step up to the plate, or are you going to be okay with not, are you going to run away again? And so I made that decision to pivot, and I don't regret it. As much as I enjoy the other company and the people and everything like that, I don't regret making the pivot, and I don't regret anything that's happened since, because it's allowed me to now be here as a co-founder of a company that is actually providing a service that helps other leaders to do what they want to do. So funny enough, as I said that out loud, it fits into how I've always lived my life of serving, of wanting to help people, especially leaders who want to help other people on a massive scale, just help them to do that.
Thanks for sharing that, Andre. I mean, so I hear you credit God, and you speak of God a lot. How would you say that your relationship with God has kind of inspired or affected all of this?
I mean, literally, before I knew him for myself, I grew up in the church, family, literally raised in the church. But it was when I was 9, turning 10 years old, so right before Y2K. It's funny, I got baptized because I was like, okay, I was young, but I was into technology. I've always been into technology. So in my mind, I really believed the whole, the world's coming to an end because, of the systems can't handle the zeros and this and the third. And I'm like, I got to get baptized, bro. I don't think I've ever told anyone that was the reason why I first got baptized. I believed enough. I was like, I gotta check all the boxes. When I was 9, 10 is when I got baptized for the first time. But I knew enough about God, about Jesus, about the purpose of baptism, that I can consciously make that decision saying that I want to get baptized then. I feel that I should have been dead a long time ago. Not because I lived a dangerous life, but because there's just been things that has happened in my life, whether it was sickness or, just accidents or like things like that, where other people have passed away or, it took them out.
Yeah.
There was a period in my life where I would literally after like 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock, I would get extremely tired. And even no matter what I was doing, I would fall asleep. So there's been many times where I'll be driving and I just late at night and I'm falling asleep. And I blink, and every time I blink, I'm like 5 miles down the road, or, there's a few times where I almost drove off the road, or like, there's just so many things. And that's just one example, but there's just so many things that's happened in my life that continue to reinforce God's presence in my life. And then I read the Bible, and for me, as someone who's in tech, someone who plays, video games, and I did coding a little bit. When I look at the world that we have designed, we create worlds, movies, we create video games that have entire worlds. We program things, and yet to not think that we are also created, like how we evolve, how we adapt, our DNA sequence, like colors and sounds, and how everything works in sequence, like points to a creator. And so like, there's just a lot of things that, for me, point back to having a creator, and for me, knowing Jesus Christ being the one who literally didn't have to, the Godhead, they didn't have to create us. They didn't have to give us mercy. They didn't have to pay a price that we couldn't pay just so that they can give us the opportunity to spend eternity with them. Like, they do all of these things not because they had to, but because they wanted to. So we have a creator who created us because they want to be with us, that they want to see us win. And they walk with us throughout in our entire lives, not because, and we suffer sometimes and we go through things sometimes, but we don't go through it for no reason. Like, it's literally to make us better, or it's for helping someone else, whoever it is, at some point. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, for me, man, everything that I have, everything that I am, everything I've accomplished, will accomplish, have accomplished, is because of God, and Jesus and the Holy Spirit, and how they work together to guide my life.
Man, it's evident that you're a follower of Christ, man. In every aspect of your life. We're very close friends. I've seen that. That's how we met, actually, in the church many, many years ago. So that's kind of like at the foundation of our relationship.
Yeah.
Let's talk about, if you don't mind, like, how does that extend into marriage?
Man, yeah, I have no problem talking about that. Literally, it's also because of the Word, the Holy Spirit, that my marriage is as strong as it is. And even during the hard times, like, it's what gets us through, because of the Bible that teaches forgiveness, that teaches unconditional love, of teaching about grace and mercy, of teaching about Jesus Christ and how he lived his life. And in turn, how it puts that responsibility on me as a husband to provide and love my wife the same way, to the same extent, to the same depth, is what allows me to show up and to love my wife and to honor her and cherish her, and to ideally create an atmosphere for her to be all that God has called her to be, and designed her to be. It makes me not want to do anything crazy. Because outside of my marriage, I just have a healthy fear of the Lord. And so, if I treated anyone crazy, especially my wife in this context, like, I still have to answer to him, and so that's the first level of checks and balances.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Bible, the Holy Spirit, and it goes both ways. Like, the same way, like, I could be a hard dude to be with. I'm definitely not perfect. I can be very difficult at times, and so I know that God has given her the grace and mercy to give me grace and mercy.
Oh, I like the way you put that.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so she's a huge believer as well. I mean, literally the first thing that I fell in love with her was her love for God. Like that was my biggest prayer. We had both been previously engaged before, and it's interesting, man. When you go through something, it helps reveal what's important. And so, I went in with my first engagement. I did the whole thing, bro. I had the whole checklist. I had I had a whole form that filled out and it was desires to nice to have to, the non-negotiables to whatever. And, I felt like God gave me a lot of those things. Right. But what was crazy, that didn't work out. But then I found my wife, and I was like, I didn't know how God was going to top, me finding everything that was on my list. And then he did.
And then he did.
Easily far surpassed, because it was everything that I wanted and more. And the first, the biggest thing was, I prayed for, I want someone who has like a heart of David, like who chases after you like David did, and that was the first thing I fell in love with my wife. And I knew, on top of everything else, but I knew that should I marry her, that we will get through life together, because God would be at the center of our relationship, and there would be no competition. Wow. Of like, we love each other, but we love God more, and we both have that understanding. And so it's like, the only thing that could really break us apart would be if we really got into a place that was so far of trying to take us away from God. I'm not like in a season where one person might be struggling spiritually and whatever, but I mean, like, literally, I become like a Buddhist, or, and even then, we would have to figure it out. But like, what I'm saying? Like, God is the core. And so, of everything that we do, our marriage, it's based upon his words in the Bible, the examples that Jesus showed, and it allows us to show up every day and have hard conversations, go experience life together, and even if it's something that's uncomfortable, like knowing ultimately, like, you're my person, and God is at the center, and even if we don't know how to do it or what the answer is in this moment, he'll get us through.
Yeah, man, that's deep. So we're talking about like your marriage, and you serve in your community, man. Like, you serve at church, you're a deacon, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about that process, bro. I mean, it's big, man. Like, it's a big one. You were selected to go through this training. So that heart of service, and not only just the heart, like the act, right? It stood out to the church leadership. It stood out. And they were like, you know what? This is someone who we want to represent the body of Christ in our community. Talk to us about that whole, like, when you found out that you were selected, you had to go through training, of course, right? You had to put that work in up until ordination.
Oh, man. Well, first off, man, this is, if I had major goals in life, this was one of the ones that was checked off the box. And it wasn't like a goal of like I aspired to, but it's an honor to be selected, to be considered. It's an honor to serve people and serve God's people, but just serve people. I mean, everyone's God's people, but just to serve people. That was the whole point of a deacon, was to be able to be there. Everyone has a position and a role. Like some people are the apostles. They're the one who, like, you're like more of an apostle. Like, you go out and talk to people, and you'll travel and touch so many people and teach and mentor and stuff like that. But then there's others who, in order for you to be able to do that, you need to know that when you talk to these people, that they're going to be taken care of.
Yeah.
Right. So you need to have people who are in place to take care and nurture and, support those who you have spoken to, you have mentored, you have taught, and things like that. And so, to be considered for that and to be selected was an honor. What was also an honor with that is when I had first moved to Georgia, we had our small, our youth group, for the kids ministry or young adults ministry, or however old we were, at 14, 15, was Pastor Peter, who was at that time, I believe was a deacon at that time.
Yep.
And then Uncle Steve, who was also a deacon. Yep. And there was other men like your pops, yep. He's been head deacon. He was head deacon forever. But it was an honor to have these men of integrity that not only kept it 100 and really, like, if we had questions or whatever, they were giving us real life experience and sharing, but what they spoke about is what they lived. And that was the thing that stood out, is that they didn't just talk about it. They lived it. I was able to witness it, as much as I had the opportunity to witness. But whenever, things arise where they would act out or live something, I would think back to what they would say. I'm like, oh man, like, they don't just talk about it, they are. And so, to now, years later, now be at their age that they were when I first came, and then to now be considered and invited into the position of being a deacon as they were, and now having the responsibility and the honor to now be an example for the me, whoever that is, that are coming and that are here. So, Elder, Pastor Peter, he was near and dear to my heart.
Rest in peace.
He was like, he was like a father figure to me, and to a lot of people. Like, as we found out, we knew he had a lot of reach, but he was definitely like a father figure to me in a lot of ways. And to be able to just follow in his footsteps and just serving, like, that was a man who literally served.
Justified by faith, bro.
Bro.
Justified by faith.
And so to be able to have this the honor to be on that same path it's an honor, man. And it funny, it just ties back into who I felt God called me to be, called to serve. And so this is the ultimate position of serving.
Yeah, man. I mean, when you talk about those gentlemen, like the Pastor Peter, Uncle Steve, my pops, just think about that, man. Just like, even like where I was when we met, like, and having that consistent support, and having men that was like, all right, bro, like, come here, like, Uncle Steve, come here, nephew. Bow.
Yep. Yep.
Was that a good idea? No. No, but it's things like that, man. It's like that type of accountability, right? And those type of examples that really changed the trajectory of my life. Because most people would never have thought that I'd be where I am now, and that I would be, or have gone some of the places that I have, you know what I mean, and done some of the things that I've done. You look at me now, and you look at me 20, 25 years ago, 20 years ago, you'd be like, yeah, there was some type of major transformation somewhere. You know what I mean? Yeah. But the thing that was really cool for me personally with my dad is I personally got to see the transformation in his life when he accepted Jesus Christ. Mm. He who is in Christ is a new creature. And my dad has always been a great guy. I've always considered, just a great guy. You know what I mean?
Without a doubt.
And just to see that transformation. I mean, once he accepted Christ, he just became a new creature, man. Like, the way he loved was different. Everything about him was different. It's like somebody turned on a light. So imagine like how that felt, already holding this man in like such high esteem, and just thinking like he's already a great guy, right? And then some type of switch gets turned on and he's just like so much better. It was, in a way, breathtaking, man. I was in awe. It's like, whoa, okay, like that's different. Okay. And I think that kind of paved the way.
Yeah.
You know, for me to accept Christ.
Yeah, without a doubt, man. And I've only known your dad from after, like,
Yeah.
So yeah, you know the story to see the full transformation. But no, without a doubt. I remember like even Uncle Steve, in this particular example, where there was a point where I considered going into the military. Like you had made a decision to go. I'm thinking like, dang, maybe I should go too. And he sat me down and he was like, bro, the military could be a wonderful thing. Some people definitely need to go. You don't need to go. What you need to do is get off your butt and handle your biz.
Yeah.
And he's always said that to me, get off your butt and handle your biz. The talk was different with you.
I was one of those people that needed to go.
but it's once again, they kept it 100. And to put it back in biblical terms, it's really, they were transparent. They shared they had no shame in sharing their testimony. Like they didn't cover up. They weren't perfect, but they didn't hide their flaws either. They talked about their flaws. They showed, and then they said, this is why, because of this is why I now live this way. I do this thing. And this is why don't do what we did. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or this is how we show up in our life now. And then they lived it. And so it was like, they said it, but then they lived it. And so it hit more. And our group, when we were coming up, we were
thugs.
We were thugs.
True hearts under God.
True hearts.
Hearts
R.I.P. Pastor Peter. True hearts under God. But we were stubborn.
Yeah.
Soft love wouldn't have worked. We were some knuckleheads at times.
Yeah.
So, if you love someone, you discipline them.
Yeah.
And that's I'm paraphrasing there's a scripture in Proverbs, but if you love someone, you'll discipline them. And if you don't, you won't.
It has to be accountability, man. Like,
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, too many nice people in the world. You've heard the acronym. Nice. Nothing inside of them cares enough to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
I carry that with me everywhere because it's so true. How can I say I love you if I don't discipline you, if I don't hold you accountable? If I see you falling and I'm not willing to step out there and pick you up, how can I say that I love you?
Right.
How can you say you love me if you're not willing to do the same?
Yeah.
So love is it's an interesting thing. Speaking of, we've talked about business. We've talked about you personally. We talked about, marriage. We've even talked about church. Now let's talk about being a father, because that just happened now. That's
7 weeks.
7 weeks ago, man. Your son, Deuce, came into the world.
Yeah, 7 weeks as of tomorrow.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. It's not enough to have an idea. Like, when people tell you about it's different when you have a kid or whatever, it still doesn't prepare you. What I did know would be true is that there's there would be another level of a weight that would be placed on my shoulders. When I got married, there was this mantle that was placed on my shoulders. It was a weight, and it wasn't a burden, but it is a different weight. The same thing kind of double happened when my son was born, because whereas with my wife, worst case scenario, if I got taken out or whatever, like she's able to still take care of herself. You know what I'm saying? Like, but with my son, if for some reason we both got taken out or something like that, like, it's him, you know, and right now, literally he can't function on his own.
Nope.
If I forgot this dude for 5 hours, he might be gone. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's crazy how there's this human being who is completely reliant upon you to survive, much less thrive. Right. And so now all the things, all the lessons, the mistakes that I've made, I don't want him to make, but I also want to create a space for him to make mistakes, because that's part of life. Like literally, if we try to create a perfect life, we're doing a disservice to our child, because one, it doesn't prepare them for anything, but then two, it takes God out of it, because it doesn't allow God to be present, or for them to get to know God in those circumstances and moments, right?
Yeah.
And so for me, it's like all of these things in my head of like, okay, well, how do I prepare him, but yet at the same time create the space, start right now preparing to create the space for him to grow into who he's already been called to be, and do and the things he's called to do. Like, it's crazy how even at 7 weeks, and it'll be more refined over time, but like he has personality.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like he has personality, and he has mannerisms that even then is resembling of me and my wife. And it's like, bro, like, once again, how does this being come into existence that comes from nothing to being developed in this womb, where organs are created inside the woman's body just to supplement and feed the child, and then it's ejected out with the child to this creature that is made up of your DNA, but he looks just like my dad. Like when he came out, he looked more like my dad than he looked like me.
That's
So I
crazy,
could still, I still claimed him, but I claimed him because I'm like, yo, like you look like literally your grandfather, 1,000%. But yet like there's lineage in him because of that DNA.
Yeah.
You know, and I think spiritually though, on the flip side, because I know there's lineage in him, it's dang, like praying against, and been praying before, but even now more so of like, what are there any generational curses that might have been passed on to him that I still have the opportunity to break prior to him having to face those things? Because that's a real thing. Generational curses is a real thing. And I've seen it and witnessed it and lived it myself to a degree. But then like you see it everywhere. And so like, there's just a different level of responsibility. One of my favorite movies is Avengers, the first Avengers, where Loki is first introduced, and he says like, I'm Loki of Asgard and I'm burdened with glorious purpose. And I love that phrase, burdened with glorious purpose. Yeah. Like there is a burden, there is a weight, but it's a glorious purpose. Yeah. And so like, that's how I view being a father. There's a added responsibility now, man, that for the rest of my life, you know, I'm going to be, you know, in this kid's life to some degree. But I have the opportunity and the responsibility for this first few years, especially to create an atmosphere and to model the things that he's going to remember for the rest of his life.
Yeah, man, that's so deep, man. Like, even saying that, like saying the first few years, man, because when you said that, what automatically came to my mind is this first few years, meaning like the first 18, because it's crazy. Like I recently heard something and it makes so much sense. Most of our children's lives we'll spend with them as an adult, generally.
Yeah.
So we really don't have that long, you know, spending time with them as children. That's why it's so important how we raise them and how we train them and we build them up. And I think that is such an honor to be blessed with a son. It's an honor to be blessed with daughters also, but I feel like for me personally, because in my family, you know, all of my siblings, the boys only has girls and the girls only have boys. So I felt like for me specifically, this was God's way of saying that I want your lineage to continue. I want your lineage to continue. Bring them up in my name. Bring them up, you know, raise them the right way. Teach them to have a relationship with me. And that's how I feel every time I look at my son. I'm just like, man, God loved me so much that he gave me a son. He gave me a son.
Yeah.
Gave me an opportunity for my lineage to continue, to break some of those generational curses, to break some of those generational strongholds.
Yeah.
And that just, like, every time I see him, man, it's like he's like walking now. Like this little joker took like 6 steps this morning, uninterrupted.
Crazy.
And
that's crazy.
And it just reminds me of like our relationship with God. There's phases. There's different stages in your relationship. There's different seasons in your relationship. And it just remind me of him stumbling to take steps to get his footing. Pretty soon he'll be running and jumping. Heck, even one day maybe he'll be flying. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. But yeah, dude, thank you so much for sharing that. What
I want to say, actually, on top of what you just said, man, you know, you asked me earlier about what's my relationship with God? Like, what was his impact, or how do I live a life believing in him? Is because he's also a God who remembers. Like, and what I say by that is that he gives promises, or you pray for certain things, and he shows up in all these ways. Like, what's crazy, man, is we've known each other for 20 years, 20 plus. You know, you had 2 daughters before. I always wanted to have, I was hoping that I would have a child, you know, that our kids could grow up together.
Yeah.
And in this, and I also prayed for being an only child. I prayed for brothers, and he blessed me with that. And it's an honor to be able to have someone like you for 20 years, bro. Like, that's a blessing. And I was so blessed to have you, and, you know, I'm blessed to have a few other people in my life, but like, even just to have you for that amount of period of time, like, that's not the norm.
No.
I was so used to that being my norm that it took me a while to realize that that's not the norm, that some people don't have that level of relationship for that long of a time. But I prayed for it. I wanted us to, ideally, like, our kids would grow up together, and here's what happens, where you have a son, I have a son, within a year of each other.
Yeah, man.
And I'm like, dang, God, like, not only did you give me a brother, but then you also were so gracious to let him have a third child, and it's a boy, and I have a boy, and, like, you know, they're going to be able to grow up together.
Yes.
You know? And so God shows up in the small ways like that as well, where he gives a word, he gives a promise, and it's something that's outside of me. Like, I didn't just think about this thing. Like, that was very specific. And yet he'll show up and that thing will happen. And it's like, dang, I'd given up on that. Like, I thought I wasn't going to happen anymore because of, you know, it's been so long, or, you know, he already got kids. Like,
yeah.
And then even if you had another one, who would have thought that it'd been right then, and, you know, like, so close.
The timing, man.
The timing.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, bro, it's definitely just an honor and a blessing, man. Like, all kids are miracles, bro. Like, in spite of the circumstances, just the fact that they are conceived.
Yeah.
And then to make it through conception to birth.
Yes.
You're already a miracle.
Yes. Literally.
You know what I'm saying? Like, they're all miracles, man. The fact that we all were born and came into this world, we're all miracles.
Man, thanks for sharing that, man. It's like we're kind of coming up on time, but I want to ask this question that, you know, that I've been asking a lot lately, man. I just think it's such a interesting and it's a powerful question, you know, and it's, well, what might people be surprised to know about you?
Well, that I'm an extreme introvert. I'm not going to call myself alone. I'm not going to call myself a loner, but I have loner tendencies. I really have no problem not being around people. COVID, otherwise, and just having this not fear, but concern for my family's health and friends' health and all of that it was the best season of my life. Not having to really talk to people, not having to go out. So yeah, man, like I have loner tendencies. I won't claim to be a loner or whatever, but I have loner tendencies.
The world of loners can't have you, bro. I'll pull you out every time.
And I need that.
I'm coming for you, dog.
I need that. It's no good. But I'm just saying, like, I have no problem being an extreme homebody. Like, it drains me to talk to people, and I have to recuperate. Like, if you see me at a large event, just know you're probably not going to see me for a couple of days.
At least. At least.
So, but yeah, but I love people at the same time. And that's why people will be surprised to know that I have these loner tendencies.
Yeah, well, thanks for sharing that, man. Before we let you go, man, there's something I want to give you. So what I have here is a custom Call to Serve podcast challenge coin. And I want you to do whatever you want with it, but every time you look at it, man, I want it to serve as a reminder of why you serve other people, why you choose to serve other people day after day, day in, day out. Because there are people who are literally called to serve, and you, my brother, are one of them. 100%. There's no denying it. And I want that to be a reminder of, if you ever lose yourself, or if you ever question your purpose, or, you get in that winter season in faith, look at that coin and remember why it is that you serve and why God created you to serve.
Thank you, man. I appreciate this. I'll definitely keep it close, always.
Yeah. And, Call to Serve podcast, our motto is serving those who serve others. That's what we created this platform for to honor you and your service to others, and to thank you, because what you do is important. Everywhere you go, specifically being a deacon in a church, helping people through that, through discipleship and just giving them a family, a community, and just letting them, understand and know that they're not in it alone, that there is someone there that is there to nurture them. So.
Thank you, brother.
I'm super proud of you, man. I love you, dog. You know what I mean? I'm super grateful that you took the time to come and bless us with your presence and just a small portion of your story. We definitely going to have you come back future episodes, whether you, like you said, whether it's 100 or episode 1,000. Hopefully it ain't that long. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, man, you're my guy, bro. Till the day I die.
Thank you, brother.
Till next time.